Hey everybody, I'm Jason with Fuzzlord Effects, and in this video we're going to be screen printing guitar pedals by hand. I wanted to show you the overall setup, talk about some of the different inks and things that we use, and just give you a bunch of helpful tips and tricks. The goal of this video is to show people that are interested in learning about screen printing their own guitar pedals some helpful tips, as well as showing people that are just interested in knowing how Fuzzlord pedals are made, how a bunch of pedals are screen printed right here by hand in our shop. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, and as always, please subscribe to the channel, check out some other videos, like the video, share it with a friend. And before we get started, I'm curious to know, what is one of your favorite band t-shirts? I think a lot of us don't realize that almost every band t-shirt out there that we're wearing was screen printed at a shop. So it's going to be very similar to the process we're covering in this video today. So leave me a comment below. Right now, this is one of my favorite new shirts from my buddy Steve Reese at Does It Doom, who does gear demos and guitar lessons that you might want to check out his YouTube channel also. Let's get started. So let's just talk about the setup a little bit. First of all, you need to have coffee. Important part of screen printing. So check it out. We have a board here that is our jig, basically. And what we need to do is we need to lift this screen up high enough that we can get a pedal under it. Make sense? So this is on a 2x6 across here. We've got these screen clamps. These are your normal, like, art printing Speedball brand screen clamps. I'll leave a link in the description for those. But the deal is, you get this board set up and we get our screen mounted to it on these hinges. And if you come around this side, Eric, you'll be able to see that this is our simple jig that holds the pedal. So it's just a couple pieces of wood, air nailed down to this board so that we can slide our pedal, it's pretty tight, into there, right? So we get our pedal down in there, and all the pedals are gonna go there, and then we're going to put our screen down and line it up to the pedal. If you can see along the edge of the artwork here, in the actual art file, what I like to do is I make a little line around the edge of the artwork that represents the edge of the box. So then we put a pedal down there, and I use the flashlight on my phone, and I shine a light down through the screen and I push it down, and then I'm lining up the edges of those lines to the edges of the box. That's how I line up the artwork on these prints. I know a lot of you are already starting to ask, like, how do you get your screens made, or like, what's the process behind that? What I do, and what I would recommend for you, is to get a screen print shop in your city to burn your screens for you. It's just one of those things where they have the proper equipment, like the light exposure table, that kind of unit, which are very expensive. But what I would recommend doing is you make your artwork on whatever program you like to use. I use GIMP. So you make your artwork, you put your little lines around the edges of the box so we know where to line them up. And then I call up the shop that does all the screen printing for Fuzzlord, which is Printware of Oregon in Eugene, Oregon. And my buddy John over there, we have it worked out to where I drop off these screens at the shop, and then I'll send them my artwork, and then I pay for it, and then they burn the images in the screen. I use this is a 195 mesh count screen. A lot of people always ask about that, of like, what mesh count screen should I use? The proper screen printing answer is you should use whatever mesh count screen is appropriate for your artwork. We're doing the Voidmaster today, which is a pretty fine, detailed print. So we're using a 200 mesh count screen, which what that means is it's like how many holes per an inch are in that screen. Think of it like DPI on an image. So we're printing a very high detailed image with lots of fine lines, so we want lots of pixels per an inch, basically, like DPI. If you were printing something like this Does It Doom t-shirt that is a very big image, very blocky and bold with lots of ink, we'd probably use a 100 DPI screen. Or not DPI, sorry, 100 mesh count screen. So that's what I want you to think about. For general rule of thumb, 200 mesh count screens for these guitar pedals are working really good for me. And I'm not using a very standard ink You can't see it, the brand name too well, but this is One Shot Enamel Paint. You can also get NASDAR 4700, which is an enamel screen printing ink, very similar. And you can thin this down and clean your screens with mineral spirits. So this is what we're using today. The reason I use this stuff is it works good, goes through a normal screen. If you're getting your screen made at a shop, be sure you let them know that you're using enamel inks and mineral spirits, because they will use a different emulsion than if it was water-based ink. So, enamel one-shot paint. You can get that off Amazon. The reason behind this is because if you ever see the cool pinstriper folks at car shows that are walking around with their little red toolbox with all the little cans of paint with the drips down the side just like this and the little horsehair brush, that is one-shot enamel paint. That's usually what they use. So the idea was to use a ink, this is actually a paint, on these screen printed petals, because this stuff I've seen pinstripers use on classic cars and it gets rained on and stuff. So it's the most durable ink that I have found without switching over to like a UV printing process or a two-part epoxy enamel ink system. So if you're a printer and you know something I don't know about printing on metal boxes, please leave me a comment below. I'd love to hear about it. But the big difference about what we're doing with this versus normal garment printing is that we're printing on non-porous metal surfaces that have been painted. So that's the basic setup. I'm gonna get the ink going. Oh, and of course we got a squeegee. That's how we're going to move the ink across the screen. I've got a little putty knife that just comes in handy to move ink around and open these cans. So that is the general setup, everybody. And then now we're going to print these 25 Voidmasters, and you're gonna get to see some clips about how that is done. You always put like a reservoir of ink down. You could put more down than that, but we're just going to get started. The first print that you do is usually more difficult because the screen isn't like lubricated with the ink. So usually if you have an error, it's right on this first one. So on this first one, I'm gonna go ahead and do the traditional flood stroke. You flood it, come back around. That's your print stroke. And then a lot of people do one extra. And then, you have a baby box. We can see it's got a good amount of ink on it. You can see this is pretty wet. So that's because I flooded it. I think I might not flood it next time. One thing about printing these boxes is like you kind of have to like reevaluate yourself every print. Kind of like, oh, that was not enough ink or that was too much. So I'm just grabbing I'm just kind of like imagine this knife and I'm just grabbing just like a little bit of the ink and then pulling it this way to make a little bead. But anybody that screen printed t-shirts will know that in a cool room, printing white plastisol ink on black shirts is you're gonna be a little sore at the end of the day. So if you're wondering, you're like, man, Fuzzlord, I just want to get all buff this year. If you want a body that you get like a nice little belly, but these like massive arms, then screen printing. Maybe just for you.
Man, Fuzzlord, I want to get fuzz buff.
I want to get fuzz yoked, man. Wow. The screen printing will keep your arms nice and swole. And then the snacks that you eat while screen printing and the soda that you drink will give you that nice belly. So the cool deal about screen printing is that, like, you know, the setup process takes a little. I'm wiping these off because I want to make sure there's no dust on the top of the box. The setup process takes some time, right? But now that we're actually printing, how long do you think each of these boxes is taking, Eric? About 45 seconds?
Yeah, maybe a minute at most.
My bad jokes are taking longer to listen to. So there's the first 5, right? We're on a roll. We're doing pretty good today. So I'm curious for the viewers. I'm curious to know if there's any colors of boxes that you think would be cool to see on some screen printed pedals, or maybe you want to see some like limited edition boxes. Like, for example, we could do a FU2 pedal, but maybe we could do it in a white box with black ink. Do like a kind of like the White Rats. Do like a albino FU2. I think that could be fun. But a lot of people are wondering how much stuff's screen printed and what isn't screen printed. And the basics of it are that whenever we do a hand screen printed run like this, we always announce it and then put it in the ad and stuff, because I know there's a lot of people that just really love collecting these because they're totally handmade. Oh, let's point something else out, Eric. That'll be really helpful for people. Check this out. In the artwork, there is little dots printed. Like there's one for the volume knob right there. There's dots printed in the artwork. And what we're going to do is, after these cure for about 24 hours, I'll take a hole punch and I'll put a punch in each of these dots. Basically, the drill template is embedded in the artwork of these files. So I'll go with the drill press and I'll drill out all the holes. The only thing we have to do different is I measure out measurements on the sides or the top for any jacks and things like that. So the cool deal is, if you print your artwork, if you put your drill template like inside of your art file, when you print, it gives you a guide to drill from, which will make your life a little bit easier. Every once in a while you might get a print where like, oh, I wish there was a little more definition or a little more ink went down, like this cloud, for example. I'm just going to set it back down. That's what the cool deal about the jig is. I'll set it back down and just give it another good pull to push that ink through the screen. So we got all the boxes printed. We got these 25 boxes printed in, I don't know, half an hour or so, aside from setup. So those look really good. They're drying out. They'll take about 24 hours. So I just wanted to show folks a little bit about how to clean up. Usually what printers will do is you grab your squeegee and you try to pick up as much ink as you can, and then do like that. You have to make sound effects. And then you put it back in the can. That's what the putty knife's for. You try to clean up as much of your ink. This is technically paint, but the screen printer in me forces me to say ink. And then what you do is you pull out your rag, and what we're going to use, when we are using enamel inks like these, or like the NASDAR 4700 series, mineral spirits is what I recommend using. You should use gloves to clean up, and for no reason at all, I'm going to clean up off camera because I don't have gloves. So take off your rings, things like that. But that's the cleanup process. Mineral spirits, enamel paint that we're using as screen print ink made by One Shot, and then you just print over pre-painted boxes from whoever you choose to get them from. So I do hope this video was helpful. Again, let us know below one of your favorite band t-shirts you own, or something that you own that's screen printed. Maybe you even own a Fuzzlord Voidmaster that was printed by me, just like this. So hopefully this has been helpful. So I hope that was fun for you to check out how these guitar pedals are screen printed, and maybe you have some ideas of how you would do it now. So again, I'm curious to know, what is your favorite band t-shirt, because those are all screen printed shirts. And leave a comment below. Let me know your favorite shirt, where you're watching from, and maybe some video ideas that you'd like to see for next year. Again, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. I'm Jason from Fuzzlord Effects. be sure you check out fuzzlordeffects.com. Check out the Fuzz Life podcast on iTunes and Spotify because I do a podcast episode every week. And you can keep up with me on a daily on the Instagram page at FuzzlordEffects. So until next time, I hope you have a good week, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.